are. And they're in your dining room eating your food. Sitting with your grandpa. Your great-grandpa, your uncle. You're like, those are my family members. And you're locked out. He said, hey! Hey! We don't know you. See, Jesus is saying that there's going to be a day when Jews see Gentiles sitting with the patriarchs. And they're going to say, wait a minute, that's our table. And they will come, the Gentile nations, from the east, the west, the north, the south, and will recline at the table in the kingdom of God. And behold, some are last. And behold, some are last who will be first. And some are first who will be last. I think here it's clear. The Jews, salvation is to the Jews, but they have rejected the Messiah largely, and so it's going to be flipped around. The kingdom is going to go to the Gentiles. The unclean Gentile dogs. There's a story of a woman who had been used to every luxury in all respects. She died, and when she arrived in heaven, an angel was sent to conduct her to her house. They passed many lovely mansions, and the woman thought as they passed each one, that's mine, that's got to be mine. When they had passed through the main streets, they came to the outskirts where the houses were much smaller. And on the very fringe, they came to a house which was little more than a hut. That's your house, said the conducting angel. And she said, that's it? That's all I got? Wait a minute. I should have one of those mansions. And the angel said, well, that's all we could build with the materials that you send up here. See, sometimes our priorities are wrong. We have the standards of earth instead of the standards of heaven. Now, I'm going to take you to a final couple passages in Matthew 22. Did I say final couple passages 5 minutes ago? Matthew 22. And Jesus answered and spoke to them, Matthew 22:1, again in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. He sent out slaves, Matthew 22:3, to call those who had been invited to the wedding feast. And they were unwilling to come. Matthew 22:4. Again, he sent out other slaves, saying, tell those who have been invited, behold, I've prepared my dinner, my oxen, my fattened livestock are all butchered, everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast. 2 invitations. They're not RSVPing. But they paid no attention, and they went their way. And one to his own farm, and another to his business. And the rest seized his slaves, look at this, and mistreated them and killed them. No, we're not coming to the wedding, and you annoy us. But the king, how should the king respond to his servants who were just trying to invite people to his son's wedding? The king was enraged, and he sent his armies, think of the fall of Jerusalem, and destroyed those murderers and set their city on fire. Then he said to his slaves, the wedding is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the main highways, and as many as you find there, invite to the wedding feast. And those slaves went out into the streets and gathered together all they found, both evil and good, and the wedding hall was filled with dinner guests. But when the king came in to look over the dinner guests, he saw there a man not dressed in wedding clothes. They would actually give you a wedding garment in these days. So you had to put on the wedding garment provided to you, kind of like a rented tux, but in this case they'd give you the garment, you'd change into it, and you'd be one of the guests. And he said to him, friend, how did you come in here without wedding clothes? And the man said, well, you know what? It wasn't really clear that I was supposed to have on this white garment because, you know, there seemed to be other garments that people could wear to get into this wedding. God, you didn't provide enough information about the details of the entrance into this wedding party. So if you'd been more clear, I would have put on the garment. But, you know, it was a little uncomfortable for me. And no, the man was 12 speechless. No one in the presence of God is going to be trying to talk God out of his decisions and saying, well, you didn't provide enough. And then the king said to the servants, bind him hand and foot, cast him into the outer darkness, In that place there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. There it is again. For many are called, but few are chosen. The word chosen is a synonym here for invited. It's not the election here. It's just many are called, but few are invited. That's the whole theme. And then the Pharisees, what did they do on the heels of this teaching? They went out and counseled together how they might trap him in what he said. Matthew 25, verse 1. Final text. All right. You say it's not impossible for Michael to lie. Then the kingdom of heaven, Matthew 25:1, will be comparable to 10 virgins who took their lamps, went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish. Remember the story of the man who built upon the sand and man who built upon the rock? 5 were wise or prudent. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. This is probably more like something that you would hold and wrap cloth around, and you have to continually soak it. Kind of more like a torch is what we're talking about. They took no oil. Oil was absolutely essential to those torches. Now while the bridegroom was delaying, they all got drowsy, all of them did, and began to sleep. But at midnight, and just a side note for you Bible students, this is the time that God passed over Egypt, was midnight. There was a shout, think of the second coming passages, behold, the bridegroom, come out to meet him. Then all those virgins rose, they all got up, they trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, or the prudent, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the prudent answered, saying, no, there will not be enough for us and you two. Go instead to the dealers and buy some for yourselves. And while they were going away to make the purchase, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. And later, so remember, once he gets up and shuts the door, and later the other virgins also came, and they said, Lord, Lord, open for us. But he answered and said, truly I say to you, I do not know you. Why would I let you into the wedding? I don't even know who you are. You're not connected with me or this group. Be on the alert then, for you do not know the day or the hour. Father, we